Hi everybody, welcome to the first Flash Chat of 2017. Today we're going to be discussing fundraising for your Student CPT chapter. My name is Sydney Shear and I'm the Development and Student Program Specialist at the Center for the Public Trust. I just joined the CPT in October and I'm doing fundraising for the CPT as well as working with student programs. So I'm excited to talk to you all about some ways that you can raise money for your chapters today. In today's Flash Chat, we're going to discuss a few things. We'll talk about chapter fundraising basics, some fundraising ideas that you might use for your student CPT chapters, planning and executing your fundraiser, some fundraising guidelines that we have, how to collect and send money to us, and then finally some fundraising hints and tips. So first, I want to talk about some fundraising basics. So you might be wondering, why would we have a fundraiser? We're an ethics organization. Why do we need to raise money at all? Well, there's a few reasons. First, you might want to actually raise money for your student activities, for your chapter activities. This includes getting food, promotional materials, maybe having a speaker come to talk. So any of those kinds of things that require money are things that you might want to fundraise for. You might also want to use your fundraiser as a community service event. As most of you know, in order to become a Golden Star chapter, you need to have one community service event during a school year. And we do this so that you can have the opportunity to make an impact on your local community. So some chapters go out and volunteer somewhere, but others choose instead to raise money for a worthy cause. So those are kind of the two reasons why a student CPT chapter might decide to hold a fundraiser. Next, who's involved in a fundraiser? Well, first, everybody. Everybody in your chapter can, and we hope would be involved in raising money either as a community service event or to support your chapter activities. But probably the main person who will be involved is going to be your treasurer. The treasurer is in charge of managing your chapter's money and will be the person who likely has some experience creating budgets and collecting money and things like that. So that person will definitely be involved. Depending on the size of your chapter, you may also have a few other officers. You may have a director of community relations and development. You may also have a director of communications. These are people that could also be involved in planning the fundraiser, whether it's just from, forming a committee, creating promotional materials, anything like that. So before we kind of dive into the nitty-gritty, I want to just talk through a few ideas that we've come up with for fundraising on your campus. So these are just a few things to kind of get your ideas going, but if you have any other great ideas, we'd love for you to either chat those with us and let us know what they are so you can share with other students who are on the call, or email them to us. We love highlighting these ideas and letting other student chapters who come wanting to know what they should do, we'd love to give them some thoughts. So just a few ideas. You could create a final survival kit to sell to students or promote to professors and parents to give to students as well. This could include candy, energy drinks, gum, pens, pencils, things like that, anything that you might need to get through finals. You can have a dinner with the dean, so students could buy tickets to go have dinner with either a dean of a school on campus or another kind of important or famous, if you will, person on your campus. Towards the end of the semester, you can collect donations from students who are moving and are likely looking to get rid of some things and have a campus yard sale. You'll then organize that and sell the items that people have donated in order to raise money. You might have a parents' night out, so that would be faculty, staff, maybe even community members could come bring their kids to a space that you've reserved on campus and pay a small fee so that they can go have a night out and you'll babysit them. And a great idea here is to actually incorporate some ethical leadership activities with the kids to bring it full circle. You could have a student CPT carnival or barbecue, and those are events where you can, charge people to get in or charge them for a plate of food or for a carnival activity. So those are just some things that you can do as well. I do want to direct your attention to this website, studentcpt.org/fundraising-ideas. This is a website that we've created with all of these ideas and many more, and has descriptions of the fundraising ideas as well. So that's going to be a great resource if you're looking to, do something different this year. Now I'll go into talking about how to plan and execute your fundraiser. So I always say that the most important part of any fundraiser or any event at all really is planning. So you'll see most of the things here are before the event. So before you get started on the event, you'll want to first determine what kind of fundraising event you'll have. So looking at the ideas that we just talked about, thinking about your campus, thinking about what you think could be the best option for you. So you'll make that decision. And then you'll want to make sure that you seek approval from your university and the National CPT office. This is very important. A lot of universities have rules about, fundraising do's and don'ts. They might have certain vendors that they want you to work with, things like that. So work with your chapter advisor or work with the student activities office on your campus to make sure that you are following proper protocol for your fundraiser. You'll also want to talk to your chapter rep at the National CPT office, and one of us will be able to, just listen to what you're doing and make any recommendations, make sure that everything sounds like it's good to go. So just do those two things before you get started doing anything else. Next, you'll want to create a budget. This is important because going into the event, you might have to invest some money, whether that means buying some food that you might have or renting out a space. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you create a budget so that you don't go overboard and so you know kind of what you need to do in order to make your fundraising goal. So another suggestion that I have would be that you try to get as many things donated or discounted as possible. The worst that could happen if you ask for something to be donated towards your event is that somebody will say no. Likely they'll be very sorry that they had to say no, but for the most part, a lot of people will say yes. So whether you're having a barbecue and you get the food donated, or you are going to have a concert supporting your student CPT and you get somebody to volunteer their time to play a show or give you a space to host your event, those are all good ways to save money on the front end. But if you do have to spend any money for your event, make sure that you remember that you can get reimbursed or you can get a cash advance for this through the CPT National Office. So be sure to talk to your chapter rep when doing this and save all of your receipts, and we'll be able to make sure that that gets taken care of for you. After you create your budget, you will want to make sure, and this is kind of in conjunction with the budget, that you book your space and any equipment that you need, whether it's AV equipment, sound equipment, things like that. As we all know, on college campuses, space can book up really quickly, so it's just a good idea to go ahead and get those things in place as early as possible. Also, in conjunction with creating your budget, you'll want to set a goal. So whether you are fundraising to have a speaker come onto your campus, you want food for maybe all of your meetings for the semester, or you say, you know what, we want to raise $1,000 for this local nonprofit. Whatever it is, make sure you set a goal and keep that in mind. Also keep that in mind when you think about the money that you're investing in. So, if you have to spend $100 on equipment and supplies, but you want to raise $1,000, you need to raise $1,100 in order to meet that goal. So always keep that in mind, and it's good to make sure that you tell your volunteers, tell your chapter, so they have that in mind during the event and they will know how close they are to meeting the goal. Next, once you have everything set up, you have the date, you have your room, you have everything ready to go, you'll want to make sure that you promote. So this means advertising the event on campus or in the community through flyers, social media, emails. Maybe your school has announcements that you can send messages out about the fundraiser to. You could even go ask to speak in your class beforehand and tell the class about the fundraiser that you're going to have. And then finally, you'll just want to make sure that you outline any logistical needs that you have. We all know that with any event, there's a lot of things that can come up. So you'll want to make sure that you think through all of those and really be as in-depth as possible. Just a few ideas of things you might want to think through are, well, you need volunteers. How will you recruit these volunteers? If you're collecting cash, make sure that you have a cash box, make sure that you have change. Will you provide a non-cash option for paying? Do you need audio-visual equipment, or do you need somebody to set up the room? And if so, do you need to have a floor plan? Do you need to have a rain date or a rain date location? Do you need signage at the event? Do you need a point person at the event? These are all just examples of the many things that you might have to think about before actually hosting the event, and that you'll want to make sure that you outline. Again, the more you plan beforehand, the better off you are and the more likely you are to meet your fundraising goal. During the event, you'll want to make sure that you get there very early to set up. I think that as early as you can get there, the better, just so that you don't have to be stressed about it. Always keep your goal in mind. Make sure that everybody who's working the event has the goal in mind. You might even consider having some sort of measure to let people know how close you are to meeting your goal throughout it. It keeps the energy up. It makes people want to give. So always keep that in mind throughout the event. Make sure that you have somebody in charge of collecting money. They have a place to put the money and that you know what's happening here. At the end of the day, you are trying to fundraise, so making sure that you have a good system there is going to be 100% one of the most important things. And finally, if you can tie in ethics in any way, I think that's a great way to bring things around and raise awareness for your student CPT chapter as well as funds. If you are having a bake sale, consider having some slips of paper that have ethical leadership tips or fun facts and give those out as you sell cookies or brownies, things like that. If you're having an event where you have an MC, maybe have them kind of incorporate some of those fun facts as they're speaking as well. That's a great way just to remind everybody what the cause is all about and why you're fundraising. If you're fundraising for a nonprofit, you might also tie in some facts about them. Finally, after the event, you'll want to make sure that you clean up, leave the space as you found it. You'll want to make sure that you count your money. This is, again, one of the most important things. Count your money and then count it again. I would say that it's really important to have kind of a system of checks and balances when it comes to counting your money. You'll want to make sure that you have at least 2 people count it at minimum and have somebody watching while they're counting and counting along in their head just so that you make sure you have the correct amount. Write down or send an email saying the money that you have on hand, so the money that's actually in the cash box, and make sure you know who is taking that money and what the next step is. As soon as possible, I would say deposit that money into a bank account. If possible, somebody who works at the school, either your chapter advisor or somebody else on campus. And then I'll talk in just a little bit about how to send that money either to us or to the nonprofit organization. But again, you know, you can never do too much in terms of having multiple people there counting and having multiple people know how much money you have on hand and where the money is going. So make sure that you have a paper trail there just to protect yourself and the integrity of the student CPT. After that, you'll want to evaluate the event. Maybe sit down and have a focus group with the people that worked the event, even maybe somebody that attended the fundraiser, and say what went well, what didn't go well. Did we meet our goal? If so, how did we do that? If not, how can we do better next time? So that's going to be a really important thing so that you can, going forward, always improve upon what you've done in the past. And then finally, submit an activity report to the National CPT office so that we can, first of all, know that you had an event and count it towards your gold chapter status. And then we can also share what you've done. Be sure to take photos as well, because we love sharing that on social media and on our website. Now quickly, I just want to go over a few guidelines that we have for fundraisers. As a student CPT, if you are fundraising, we just have a few things that we want you to keep in mind. First, all fundraising initiatives must be approved by the CPT National Office. I've said it before, but just make sure that you run anything like that that you're going to do by your chapter rep here to make sure that we can give you any resources that you need and that, you know, everything is in line with our guidelines. Next, if you're raising funds for your student CPT activities, this is very important. You must include our full legal name on any marketing materials, receipts, or anything that goes out. So, for instance, your student CPT chapter does not have its own individual tax ID, but you're a part of the NASDA Center for the Public Trust, and we do. So you're really fundraising on behalf of us, but the money is going to be directed back towards your specific activities. So, for instance, if you go to Vanderbilt, you'll want to make sure that it says Vanderbilt Student CPT, a chapter of the NASDA Center for the Public Trust. Just for tax reasons, you'll want to make sure it says NASDA Center for the Public Trust. If you are raising money, however, for a nonprofit organization, you'll want to include their full legal name. You don't need to include our full legal name, but you'll want to include theirs just so that people know, again, you are not an individual nonprofit. You're fundraising either for a nonprofit or for the NASDA Center for the Public Trust. Then, in terms of kind of the types of nonprofits and organizations that you can fundraise for, just keep in mind that it's a conflict of interest for us to have you fundraising for any organizations that promote political parties or any political advocacy organizations. So be sure that you kind of let us know if there is any iffiness there, and we're happy to walk you through that. But again, that's just a conflict of interest for the CPT. And then finally, practice good fundraising ethics. As an ethics organization, we want to make sure that we're always thinking through how to be as ethical as possible in all of our activities. So just a few tips there. Be transparent about where the money is going. If the money is going towards a nonprofit, let people know. If the money is going to get a speaker or to get food to have at your events to get more people there, let people know that as well. Be as transparent as possible and tell people this is what we're fundraising for. If you do get big gifts, say somebody writes you a check or something like that, it's important to acknowledge that you received that gift. So say somebody's parent writes a check and sends it in, you'll want to write them a letter letting them know we got this. Yes, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We have received your gift and this is what it's going towards. And finally, this probably won't happen very much with student fundraisers, but if somebody does say, I want to give a gift, but I want it to be allocated or restricted to this certain thing, you'll want to make sure that you follow their wishes there. So if somebody says, you know, you're fundraising for the speaker, but actually what I'd like to do is give you a donation for food for your meetings, you'll want to make sure that you do allocate that money towards that, and you can let us know and we can make sure that we allocate that in your student's chapter account statement as well. But that's just good fundraising ethics and practice in general. Now, the fun part, sending your money in. So once you've finished your fundraiser, you're done, you have your money, now what? So after you followed your steps of checks and balances to make sure you've counted your money, you've balanced your budget to make sure that you know how much money has been covered to get either reimbursed for some expenses that you had, things like that, then it's time to send your money into us. So the way that you'll do that, we prefer is via check. So you'll write a check, make it out to the NASBA Center for the Public Trust, and be sure to designate your StudentCPT chapter in the memo line. Once we get that, the money will be credited towards your chapter account, and your account rep will be able to tell you how much money you have available. If you are fundraising on behalf of a nonprofit organization, make sure you give your money directly to that nonprofit beneficiary. This means speaking with them and figuring out the best way to do that, and they'll be able to give you more instructions there. But again, if you have any questions or you're having difficulty, we're always happy to help you. And finally, I just have a few hints and tips to make sure that you can meet your goal and raise as much money as possible. First, consider partnering with another student organization. We always preach collaborativeness in meetings and in fundraisers. So if there's a speaker that you really want to bring in collaboration with another student group, consider fundraising with them. If there's a nonprofit that another group might be interested in fundraising for as well, collaborate. You know, it's going to bring more volunteers, more awareness, and ultimately more funds towards what you're trying to fundraise for. Next, I would definitely suggest targeting faculty, staff, alumni, and community members, even parents. I mean, people that are out there working, people that have a little bit more money than students do to donate. You know, it's always better to ask and get a no than to not have asked at all. So if you see a faculty member at your student event or even on campus beforehand, ask them. Say, would you consider making a gift? Ask your parents. Ask other people in your community that might be interested in getting involved. You know, the worst that could happen, again, they say no, but at least you tried. And hey, maybe you got the word out about the StudentCPT. Again, book space and secure approvals as early as possible. If you try to do something at the last minute, it's going to be really difficult to pull everything together on time. So just those are the big things, the approvals and booking space, I think, that take the most kind of energy and coordinating. So make sure that you book those as soon as you can. And then finally, think through the timing. If you're fundraising to have a speaker, but you want to have the speaker, you know, in 2 weeks, you might not have enough time to have a fundraiser for that. So think through what it is you're fundraising for. Do you have enough time to pull it together? Do you have enough time to get the funds to send a check? Also think through what else is happening on your campus at that time. If you have homecoming that week, you might not want to have a fundraiser. It might not be the best time. Or maybe it is because there's a lot of alumni on campus. You know, think about your campus, what's going on, what you would be in competition with, and what would be going on that could potentially help you. And we're, again, happy to talk through that with you as well. Now, finally, does anybody have any questions? If you do, I'm happy to take any that pop up in the chat menu. But while you all think about your questions, I, again, just want to emphasize probably the most important thing that I can say during this presentation is, first of all, the fact that when you do fundraise, if you are fundraising for your StudentCPT chapter, be sure to put that you're fundraising for the NASBA Center for the Public Trust, or it's a fundraiser of the Ohio State StudentCPT, a chapter of the NASBA Center for the Public Trust. That's going to be 100% an important thing to do, just so that we make sure that we have all the correct tax documents and things, should anybody have any questions. And then again, I can't stress enough just making sure that you think through the logistics before the event. That's going to be a key thing. And really, you can never start planning early enough. I think that's something that we've definitely experienced in our fundraisers at the national office is, you know, we have a fundraiser coming up in November, and we're going to start thinking about that again here pretty soon. So I think as early as possible, it's great to start doing that. Okay, well, I don't see any questions, so thank you all so much for attending. I do want to quickly bring to your attention our next two flash chats that we have coming up. We have one in February about preparing to elect chapter officers, and then we have one in March about the Campus Being a Difference Awards. So we hope that you'll be able to join us for that. We will have this webinar recorded so that anybody who wasn't able to attend live will be able to access it via our YouTube channel, and same for all of our other flash chats. So thank you all so much, and if you have any questions, remember to give us a call, and we will be happy to help you raise money for your student CPT activities or your community service events. Thanks. Bye.